For a lot of you creative types, this is a bit that you've been waiting for. I know. So here we are. We're going to start with our lovely mannequin. Just to let you know a little bit of my drama that happened this morning. The mannequin came, this new one, and it was the wrong colour. So I was hoping for a bleach blonde, very, very blonde, that I could put a very heavy root on, right? Because I'm trying to mimic the heavy root look, because that's what you're going to do. But unfortunately, it came and it was a very, very medium blonde. So what I've done this morning in a panic is I banged a root on, but what I've been trying to do is create a heavy-ish line to try and mimic kind of highlights, which is really hard for me, to be honest with you, because I'm so used to doing these blends. So I've literally put a 7 on the root, little bit of 8-3 to smudge it together. Okay, and then I've just put it down into some bleach, okay, to try and brighten it up. It's still not quite as contrasty as I'd like, but it doesn't really make a difference to the technique. So lady comes in, she's got her highlights, they've grown down, and it's a great time to transition her. There you go. Great time to transition her into a balayage now. So what I decided to do, to give you loads of value for money, I'm going to do one technique on this side. I'm going to be freehanding the dark, or I'm going to be putting it on with my hands, and I'm going to be highlighting with foil. And then on the opposite side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to low light with foil, but I'm going to freehand bleach. So you're going to see like 4 different techniques. Obviously, I wouldn't do it all on the same lady. This is me showing you 2 different sides, all right? So we're going to start here. We're obviously going to face frame, because everyone loves a face frame. So let's start with that. Right, so, it's a bit yucky from the bleach. So I'm going to split from behind the ear. Okay, I'm going to take the front section out. I'm going to tell you what colour I'm using in just a second. All right, I'm going to clip this out of the way. So you can see I've tried to put on this kind of heavyish root, but it's quite hard to put on like a fake bad root, to be honest. And then I'm going to split from the temple, okay? So where you go most bald is where I'm going to split. Every one of my hairline techniques are always splitting that way. Do you know what, actually, since I can see more of your faces, it's so off-putting because I can't help but stare at you lot. Right, when you're working on a doll's head, quick tip, something that's actually sometimes a little bit easier is if you take the hairline and you razor cut it off, because hairlines, you tell me a client with a hairline that long, yeah? So then I'm going to take a really skinny section around the hairline. I'm going to be weaving this really, really fine. And I'm also going to be using bleach and just a 6 vol, because what I really want to do is I really want to make sure that this doesn't lift too fast, because I'm going to start at the front. So I might even do bleach, 6 vol, and tons of Innerlux just to dilute it down. Tiny little fine section. I've split it right at the recession, the little bit where we go the most thin around here. And what I'm going to do, and I recommend you guys to do this with your doll's heads, if you're going to practice before you go back to work, is actually just take off a little bit of the hair here, okay? Because that's what a hairline's like, it's thinner. Otherwise it's just weird, right? So we'll do that as we go, where we need to. I'm taking off my gloves because I'm foiling and L'Oreal isn't watching me. Does anyone else foil with gloves on? No, but what if we're going to have to? No, I don't want to do it with gloves on. Well, she's not a real person, so I'm not going to foil with gloves on right now. Right, here's my top tip when I'm doing around a hairline. One of the things I really want is I want the foil to be super stiff, okay? So I'm going to always take a long foil. Most people try and take a smaller foil for the short bit of hair. I'm going to take a longer foil and I'm going to fold it. And then I'm going to fold it again. And what that does is that gives me a nice stiff piece of foil to work with so that it holds really nice and straight. And then when I've double folded it, I'm just going to pop it on my trolley for a second, keep it out of the way. I'm going to come in and take my weave. I can if I can weave with 400 people watching me. I'm going to come in and do that again. You guys that have been taught from me in the last 4 years will know that I have an acute tremor. So I don't know if you can see, my hands shake like this from breakfast to night, like always. In fact, if I get up and I have breakfast and my sugar's low, my cereal falls off my my spoon the whole time. And that is a pisser when your livelihood is about people watching your hands. But you know, these things happen. Right, so I put my foil in. It's a really nice fine weave. I'm coming a little bit away from the head. And I'm obviously going to stop wherever her hair stops. So if I felt like I could go a bit further down, I would. And I would, you can still see me there. And tell me if my head's in the way. Yeah. Perfect. It's a little bit hard doing this with social distancing because they're so bloody far away. It's a bit weird. And then, of course, we're going to fold the foil in, nice and tight. And then I personally, you don't always have to do this, but if I was dealing with some hair around the hairline that was this short, one thing I do quite often is I work with a very, very tight foil like this, because what it does is it allows the hair to grab. So quite often, I don't really need to stay out of the way as much as I am, do I? I'm trying to stay out of the way, but I don't think I need to.
You've got space.
I do have space, don't I? It's great. So, following the hairline, tiny fine weave, okay. Come in, and you can either do the weave and hold it and then fold, or when you're learning, it's quite good to do the fold first. Double fold, get rid of that hair in the middle, bring it back. I actually used to hate foiling when foiling was really in fashion, when it was all back-to-back foils. I just felt like it was really boring and structured, full head, half head, full head, half head. And since I can be free, like since I can do these hairlines and since I can kind of make up patterns, and I'm not saying you couldn't before, but when people just wanted a full head, half head, I felt like I couldn't be creative. But since I can be more free, I feel better. I feel like it's fun again. So I've done a weave there, and then behind here I'm going to take a slice. Some people are really happy to slice on the hairline. The reason why I don't slice on the hairline is the grow out for the client. I personally like the idea of a little bit of softness. So again, come in, and now I can sort of accept that at least by this section I'd have longer hair. All right, I'm going to double fold. And the slice has to be mega, 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 mega thin, okay? It's probably even a little bit thinner than this. Often you can kind of bend it to the head shape as well, which allows you to get closer. And the one thing that makes it look shit is if you haven't got close enough. There's nothing worse than a slice that's too far out. Now don't get me wrong, we're going to tone it, but I always think you should get this nice first. I do, and I'm sure you do, see a lot on Instagram and on YouTube and whatever, Instagram TV, of really, have you seen them? They're like super, super hard lines. They look about an inch out. And I know that they're gonna blend it away with a toner, but I'm like, oh, come on, man. Like you could have got it a little bit tighter. So, nice slice behind the weave, fold it back in. If you wanna know how I've mixed the product as well, somewhere between 1 to 1.5 and 1 to 2. I like it a little bit thicker. When I'm going around the hairline, I like it a little bit thicker so I've got a little bit more strength. What we could do at this point, and what is quite nice, is usually to cover a slice with a weave. So it's nice to sandwich them in. So we'll go weave and then we'll slice and then we'll weave. But just for the sake of time, because I know I'm going to run through, I'm probably going to leave out that weave just for showing you guys today. All right. Now we work on, I guess, what a lot of people call the money piece. I'm just going to use a brush somewhere. Do you know what I'm really struggling with? If my team are on here, I need my juniors, man. Like, where are my juniors? Like I was just saying to the film guys, like, I'm not used to this. Like, I had to do everything myself. And usually when I'm doing these sorts of things, my juniors are like one step ahead. I've already briefed them in the morning, what I'm gonna need at what time. And then this like, oh my God, I'm by myself. So let me show you this section that I've just taken. So this is along the hairline. But the difference is, and what I really want you to remember is when you're taking a hairline, let me get you a little bit closer there, is that better? When you're taking a hairline, I want you to go across the hairline and further into this recession than you might currently be doing, okay? It's this section here that never ever gets blonde enough. People stop hairlines on the last foil, so like there, okay? But the place that you need to make blonde is here. And that's because a lot of people are quite bald in this area. And what happens is when they run their hands through their hair, they're very blonde here, they're very blonde here, but this is still dark, okay? So you have to be able to lighten that up. So would I be in your way if I came here? Would that be all right? All right, so I'm gonna weave very finely. I think that's about 15 weaves. I'll have to count them next time. And now, if I've got longer hair, I don't necessarily need to go for that double fold. The double fold idea is only when the hair is piddly and tiny and super annoying. So we're going to come in, we're going to paint away, not right up to the root. The biggest mistake you're going to make when there's long roots like this is not going far enough down because you're a little bit worried about overlap. There's nothing worse than having a light piece here and then it going darker at that midsection. So make sure you're feathering. And then we're going to come in and bring it higher up to the root. Is my head in the way, my darling?
You're good.
Am I good? Okay.
Fia, can I jump in with some questions?
Yeah, I'd love you to.
Okay, firstly, where can I get these clips from that you're using?
They are, oh my God, my mind's gone blank. They are YS Park. So a Y by itself, then an S by itself, and then the word park. And these, they're both YS Park, but these ones, where are they? The red ones are way better than these. These are great, but they're about £5 a go, so you don't lose them when you've got them. Salons Direct had these ones, but they didn't have these ones, so I told them off. And now they stock these ones. So basically, you're looking for ones that have like a, let me show you, like a ridge on them. You see that? Yeah, you want them to have a ridge. It means they're super, super strong. We do quite a lot of back comb balayage in the salon, and they're brilliant for holding back comb balayage. So if you see the next section that comes along is going to be a slice. But again, I'm really conscious of the idea of bringing it much further back, okay? And while I do this slice, because I've already explained it, Ben, I'm more than happy to answer another question.
Sweet. Okay, so did you leave any hair between the weaves and the slice?
No, definitely not. Never ever do either. If I was looking for a softer result, I just wouldn't be slicing. Does that make sense? So I just wouldn't slice. So yeah, so if I want softer, I'll just weave each section, but there's no point leaving hair in between because I'm going for something more powerful as soon as I'm slicing.
A couple of people asking about bleeding or demarcation around the hairline. So how do you stop that if you're going so close to the roots?
So you can see that when I'm applying, I always apply quite heavily, but it's a little while away from the hair. And until I've kind of worked on everything, that's the last bit is when I start working higher. So you've got heat from the head, so you really don't need to be putting tons of product at the top. And I know there's a lot of artists that like to do that and keep it really thick the whole way and rely a little bit more heavily on the toning. I don't know, it's my old school way, Ben, that I would prefer to use less product and not get a heavy line. Not forgetting that the lift would be even because less product and heat from the head would be similar to no heat from the head, but more product. Okay, so I'm now moved on to a weave. So I've got a weave, slice, and a weave again. So like I said, I know I was saving a little bit of time underneath that section, but I always like to coat a slice with a weave. It's just a bit safer. So here we are, there's a great demonstration of the product being applied. So we work down. Sometimes with a slice, I'm going to be honest with you, you need to work a bit across because your section is obviously twice as much hair as a weave. So when we come in, I'm going to come this way. You guys can see. Is that good? Mm-hmm. Yeah. When we come in, I've got barely any product on my brush now, and then I'm going to shimmy that up. Some people like to work on the side. I'm happy to work flat as long as it's less. And then it's always really good to have a little bit of cotton wool by your side, not a towel or anything else, a little bit of cotton wool, which is always good to dab if you need to dab. Okay. I worked in a salon, Brooks & Brooks. They are, well, the owner of the salon is currently 2 times British Hairdresser of the Year. And it's a really beautiful salon where they are very strict with their education. And I turned up when I was 21, like absolutely clueless. If I'm honest, I really thought I was shit hot. And I was definitely just the first word. I was not great. And it was these guys that taught me how to be really, really beautifully neat with my foils. She says that she literally pulled one out. That's hilarious, isn't it? We're going to work on low lighting the rest of the hair. And we're also going to be putting in some highlights as well. I am going to take a section across the front of the hair. Okay. So this is like a bit of a horseshoe, I guess, throughout. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a few little scattered highlights in this section here. And what I'm going to do with the underneath is I'm actually going to take it darker. Why am I going to do that? Because I'm thinking of the fastest way to get to her picture. And the fastest way to get to her picture is to give her the highs and lows that she's looking for in a balayage. And you know what? To save me time, I'm just going to do more of a drag down here and get it darker. A great balayage actually is darker in those midsections, so it shows the lightness. And the reason I'm going to do that is because this is a technique for a client that doesn't really want to pay, okay? Does anyone else have that client that doesn't want to pay? Yes, absolutely. All right, so all of this underneath is going to be low lighted, and the only highlights that are going to go on are around the hairline and a sprinkling across the top. I'm now going to work in a herringbone section, just fractionally under the part, and I'm going to do some nice soft weaves. So they're about 1 centimetre apart. They don't need to be right on the hairline, but don't be silly, don't put them too deep. If you put them too deep, by the time you've toned, you're going to lose them, okay? And we're going to put some nice weaves underneath here. And because of the size of the root of this lady, we can't back comb. If we back comb it, we'll lose it. So really, we're just going to put in a highlight. Okay. See how I moved that to the side? That's a great way of getting saturation. And then I've got less on my brush now. And then I'm really going to make sure that I feather that out, otherwise I'm going to end up going light and then dark. And because I'm putting the highlight in before the low light, I have to make sure that the oxidant is super low, otherwise I'm going to run out of time. I'm going to be like, holy shit, I'm going to have to run it to the basin before I'm ready. So just remember, if you don't have a lot of space, you can't be doing the back comb. You really are needing to highlight. Okay. Any questions in there, Ben, my darling?
Yes. Okay, so how many foils if the client wears a side parting versus a middle parting?
Shouldn't really matter as long as you're scattering them and they're at similar distance. It probably won't matter where she moves her parting, okay? So as long, because the thing is, once you put a root drag in, everything blends together anyway. So don't panic too much. I would just work to center, and then she should be able to flip this either way, no problem.
couple of people asking, can you do the same colour technique with colour wraps rather than foils?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I use foil because I always have, but I can use mesh. I'm not like too scared of mesh. And I haven't really used wraps actually, Ben. Yeah, I'd like to actually. Is that someone from Ireland? Because I know there's a lot of wraps that get used in Ireland.
There's a lot of the paper not foil going around as well, that brand.
Sorry?
There's a lot of the brand Paper Not Foil, which is going around.
Yes, there is a lot. Paper not foil seems really fantastic for the environment. I have had a try at it. I guess I'm a bit addicted to foil. I mean, environmentally, oh my God, I think we've just lost everything, haven't we, right now? Apart from the world being less polluted, we're just about to make nearly everything in our salons disposable. So we're taking a big step back, I think, from an environmental perspective in that way. So yeah, a bit mad really. Paper not foil, yeah. It's like a ceramic, I believe. Okay, so I'm coming in, and you know what you can do is you can take these, see how, oh, actually that's not very straight. You can take them slightly deeper, and that's in order to get a bit more in, but I recommend you only do this with one foil. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Because I don't want you to start putting 2 foils deep. I don't want you to do that because I don't want you to take too much time. This is balayage on a budget, first appointment. And I kind of feel like a lot of people are balayage on a budget. You have a couple of options here. You can work like a normal highlight like you normally do, or because we're going to root smudge, you can also think about actually just smudging and feathering out this colour towards the root. To be honest with you, it's not going to make a huge amount of difference when it comes to toning.
A few more questions, Sophia. So one person asking, is it just 6 foils each side of that hairline? Would you do more?
So on the hairline, I've done 3 chunky back to back, and now I'm just spreading them out, just delicately. And you know what? That's really going to depend on how much hair she's got. Yeah. So I'm just going to give you an example of how many she's got here. After her 3 on the hairline, it looks like there's going to be just 4, 5 on the top. That's it. 5 foils. So I'm really looking at how I can save time here. Now you've got 2 options in a herringbone section. What you can do is you can work upwards. So let's just say I was doing a full head. Let me get a bit cleaner with this, sorry. The lovely bleach she's had this morning is showing. So what we would do, let's just imagine for a minute, I'm going to see myself on screen. So I've gone a mimic to either side, 1, 2, 3 on the hairline, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this triangle that's left out, this is a very classic herringbone. This triangle that's out here, you might put 1, 2 up the back. I can't show you that today because obviously I'm working 2 halves of the head. So what I'm going to do is continue them. But for you, I'm going to go to this main camera here, you'd work backwards, and then you just put a couple up the back there. So nothing wild and crazy. Look, if you've been on any of my education before, you'll know that I don't do weird section patterns. I don't do anything like, I don't know, like just different for no reason. If there's a simpler way of doing it, I'm going to do it the simpler way. I won't do anything that will make me look fancy just for the sake of looking fancy. So yeah, that's just my style really. So if you think it looks a bit boring, it is. We keep it really simple. But for now, this might be something similar to what you guys already do, but hopefully I'm going to bring a little bit more value in a second of how I'm going to blend this root out together. But this is all about speed. So this is more of an example of what I would do is if I was just softly blending it so that I didn't have such a hard regrowth. Okay. There we go. Now, like I said, if someone's scattering foils, quite often what they want to do is they want to scatter them a bit too much under the parting. The problem is once you put a gradient toner on, you lose them. So I really recommend that you keep them high. Now we're going to work on the low lights, all right? So I'm going to stay to this camera for a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this hair out, which can be a bit of a pain in the ass, to be fair, but I just want to work on the bottom. All right? So just on this bottom bit here. And you can see I've put in a nice heavy regrowth line there. Whew. Oh, where's my assistant? It's just awful working in these conditions. My cameraman's a million miles away. I've got no one helping me. All right, so let's work on these underneath sections. Here, I will introduce you to my second trolley. All right, so I have, there you are, you can just see it. So I'm using a Noah. You guys that work with me know how much I love a Noah. A Noah is an oil-based colour, ammonia-free from L'Oreal. I'm not here to plug it. They certainly don't even know I'm using it. I just like it. You don't have to use a Noah, but we're going to low light in open air. And I just want you to know that when you low light in open air, if you use something too runny, it's a bit of a massacre. So what I really like from a Noah is it's really thick and it doesn't run into the rest of the hair as much. If you don't have a product that's like this, I recommend getting colour thickener and thickening it up that way, yeah? So this is a permanent colour as well, so I'm going to low light in permanent, which is something that not everyone does. One of the reasons I like low lighting in a Noah permanent is it doesn't go any darker. So if I put it on and it's a 6, I know it's going to be a 6. And unfortunately, sometimes when we're using semi and the hair is sensitive, it can suck up and we can get much heavier results than we thought about. Yeah, someone says a Noah is amazing. So you use permanent colour for low lights? Yeah, I do. Like 75% of the time. Even more maybe, my team would probably tell you. So they last really well as well. There's great longevity. Oh, thanks for letting me see it, everyone. So we have got, she's a base 7 on her roots, and this is where I might blow your mind. A Noah is really transparent. So instead of, oh, that's the wrong way. There you go. That's there, that's there. In case anyone took a picture of the screen, take it again. What I've done is instead of just putting a 7-3 on to match up, 7 gold, I've actually put a half 6-3 in. And honestly, that's simply because it's quite a transparent colour and it looks a little bit lighter. And also when you're low lighting, if there isn't enough contrast between them, it all blends together and you may as well just do a root smudge. And I just want to reiterate, I'm not root smudging today, okay? I am going to low light. So I've got half and half of that one in that one. And then I'm going to blend it down into an 8-3, so an 8 gold. And then if she was much lighter, so if she was a 10, something like that, I might want to have a third bowl on my trolley here, and that might be a clear, or like a 9-3 or something like that, yeah? I wouldn't, someone's saying, would you do it with Majorelle? I personally wouldn't, no. Majorelle 100% goes darker, it's old technology, so no, don't do that. You can still just do this technique in semi, you just might have to be a little bit more careful if your semi is runny, because I don't need runny right now. So, I think this is quite funny what I've chosen to do here, because I've chosen to foil and freehand low lights, and then I've chosen to freehand highlight and foil the low light. It's quite an interesting combination for me. But what I thought was, in the time that I've got with you, how do I make this really easy? And this was my way of making it easy for you. If you're going to be doing anything exciting post-COVID, I would imagine that you want to be doing something easy and exciting. So, in front of the ear, I've just taken that bit of hair out of the way, okay? And I'm just working on this back section here. I'm also going to be using some cotton wool, which I've already ripped, and a little bit of a tip. We tend to use them a bit skinnier. I'm using them a bit thicker today because their hair is quite heavy. So normally what we'll do is we'll split it into 2, like this. This is very important if you guys don't miss this bit. Ooh, get rid of that bit. Okay. And then when you bring them into two, you use a fist, and you fist, fist, fist. That sounds terrible. And then, there we go. Please do not sit there like, It can take forever. You don't want a junior to be taking forever on stuff like that. Fist, fist, fist. Ha, ha, ha. Oh, that's from my Connor. Yes, I'm going to get a lot of shit for that when I come back into the salon, aren't I? I can imagine my first day back into not another salon and my staff are going to be fist, fist, fisting with me. Oh, that sounds worse again. Never mind. Forget it. Edit, edit. Right, come on. Let's low light. I do need gloves. You probably saw on my Instagram that I didn't have gloves on recently. I didn't have any at home. I don't know if you tried colouring in marigolds, that they're bloody awful. Someone says it's not as good as the Winky video. The Winky video was great. I was just saying to a cameraman before that someone messaged me and said to me, I just wanted to know, I'm sorry if you guys don't know about the Winky video, but those that do, said, I'm just asking, does your son really understand the concept of what that is? Have you explained it to him? Like, how does he comprehend that? Da, 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 da. I was like, the kid doesn't even know ABC. The kid doesn't know what tomorrow or yesterday is. He doesn't know Monday to Friday. No, he can't comprehend the thing he's throwing in the air. What is wrong with people? Anyway. 2 unfollows from that, 2. Right, let's low light. So, tip, darker bowl, darker colour, lighter bowl, lighter colour at all times, okay? Get rid of all that. There we go. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get this really strong line, and then we're going to do a medium weave, okay? Not super chunky, not super fine, so a medium weave. And I'm going to come in with my board, and then I'm going to work up to the line. I'm not going to be too nervous of going over the natural. A lot of people are quite scared. They say, oh, don't you get glow? In theory, you should get glow, really, putting a gold over it a little bit, but I never do. So what's really important is I'm going to move this around the board, move it, move it, move it, move it, move it, move it. Okay. And then when I decide to go for my lighter one, because that's quite a lot of dark quite far down, I'm going to switch boards. You see that okay? Yeah. I'm going to switch boards, and then I'm going to rub my 8-3 in there. And if I had a third colour, I might switch boards again and go into my clear or gold or something like that. And just to clarify, when I say 3, it's always gold. Now, can you see why I like the Anoa? Because it sticks so bloody well. So we're going to go back to back, and one should be quite fast at this. Medium weave. If you really want to be careful, you want to put a cotton wool at either side, so something like that would be really helpful. Come in. Now, if the root's a bit shorter, you can actually come in with your board all the way to the head, and that's quite helpful because the stabilisation of it's really awesome. But this root's a little bit too big, so really I need to work further out. Different size roots depending on how far you want to pull it down. So I might pull this one down not as far, and I might pull the next one down a little bit further. Any questions, Ben, me love?
Yes. Okay, so this goes back to when you were doing the foils, but people are asking, when do you use the backcomb technique and when not?
Okay, well the root was so small that I couldn't tease the root. There's no need. If I'm working on a section this small, by the time I put a tease in, I've got no space. So you're really going to work more on a highlight and smudge back out the root. As soon as you've got a little bit more space to cope with, then you can tease it a little bit. But it's just a little bit easier to work on a highlight and smudge out. It's space dependent. Those boards are large. Where are they from? I just saw that. We'll come back to the tight one. Brilliant. The boards are from L'Oreal, actually. I like them because they have got a little bit of like a ridge on them. And I find it really weird when even a staff member or someone I'm teaching, they automatically turn the board over so it's on the smooth side. And I'm like, really? Like, don't you love the bobbles in it for moving the colour around? So yeah, they're L'Oreal, and I think we have to beat it out of them to get them. I don't know what it's like with your suppliers, but whenever we're trying to get stuff like that, I feel like I'm begging them, which can be a bit annoying. Okay, another tip with this, just before I move on to another question, okay, is all right, is the angle of the board. So let me show you this. So I'm going to put that cotton wool there. No, I'm not. There. So it's in between. Now, when you use a board this way, straight, unfortunately, what happens sometimes is the colour goes on your thumb when you're painting. So it's a really nice idea to use it more on an angle or even this way. So completely horizontal. Can actually make sure that you don't get any colour on your thumb. And can you see sometimes I move it and I reposition it, move and reposition. That's super helpful. Now, because I've got a 6 and a 7 next to an 8, the amount of rubbing and blending I'm doing right now is a medium amount. Now, if I wanted to choose some colours that were, let's say, more contrasty, so a 6 into an 8, not that half shade, or a 5 into an 8, I better make sure that I'm bloody blending more, okay? Guys, just for a little bit of time perspective, what I'm going to do, I pre-prepared a model with these techniques on both sides because I knew I would struggle in our time frame to get through it. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to miss out this section. We're going to imagine that I continue like this, and I'm going to show you how to fill in the sides as well. So just imagine that I'm repeating here. So I would work up the sides here as well, and then I'm going to work in between the foil. And this is where I really need to make sure that you guys are going to really look after yourselves. So I might just put one extra one in here for you guys to understand how it goes. Any questions, Ben?
Yes. Okay, so how would you approach the foiling from earlier if there was grey through any of that area?
If there was grey, different technique. If there was grey, well, actually, to be fair, if there was grey, you could do the same technique with the foiling, but you wouldn't be doing this low lighting technique. You would be doing a root smudge under here. So maybe similar thing, if you don't have much time, you might want to put your hairline in, put 6 foils across the front or whatever works for you on how thick her hair is, and then come in and underneath do this more of a root application and a root smudge. I mean, God, it's a big, good old-fashioned, we used to call it tint and bits, yeah? Like, the only difference is that those bits then have a gradient on when you tone them, which turns them into a balayage. So really, you need to learn, you need to use some of those skills that maybe you used to do 10 years ago and adapt it for now. So here we are, I'm going to work with the foils, bring them through. Okay, I'm not going to put any in the foils in between at the front, because remember, I'm going to try and keep this as light as possible. But what I am going to do is put them in between. So maybe not that one, because I want to keep everything light around here. But as soon as it gets a bit chunkier, I'm going to be putting them in between. Okay, so let me keep this out of the way. If I had a glamorous assistant, she would be assisting me right now. So here we go, in between. Now, depending on how much hair you've left in between, 1 might suffice, or if it was a bit chunkier, perhaps like this one, 2 might be better. So that's a case of splitting that into 2, clipping that up, yeah, good angle, and then weaving this one. And this is definitely where you can work a little bit higher and a little bit lower. There we go. So let's just say this is my lower. Okay, moving it into my other one. And then cotton wool, and then cotton wool, okay. Nice thing is the foil kind of holds this out. Doesn't have to be in her face, you can always just bend the foils out of her face, and that'll keep all the low lights out of her face as well. So yeah, it seems like in this case, with this lady, with the amount of hair we have, they're quite good, these heads, you get quite a lot of hair on them, that it seems like it would be best for me to do 2 sets of lowlights in here. Because if I did 1 set of lowlight, it would simply be too chunky. Go on then, Ben, what have you got for me?
A couple of people asking for the peroxide for the Anoa.
Ah, great question. I'm so sorry I didn't cover that. I'll come to camera. So, Anoa, a few years ago, many years ago, actually came out with a 10 vol, but they didn't have it in the UK, which was a real pisser. And we couldn't wait for it. We're really excited, and lots of countries got it. And then I was already low lighting on 20 vol, because that's all they had was 20 vol. Now I know a lot of you are like, ooh, 20 vol for a low light. I never had any issues, it worked quite fine for me. Hang on, there we go. However, one of the reasons why I'm still working on 20 vol is because the lower the developer, the higher the deposit. And one of the reasons why I didn't end up getting, you know, suck up of colour or heavy deposit was simply because I was still using 20 vol. So I've tried it with 10, and in theory it's better for the hair. But honestly, I like to be able to do low lights and guarantee that it won't drop. That's my favourite thing, you know. Does that answer the question? I think so. Ooh, we've got to watch out for this. Woo! Woo, woo, woo. Let me show you that. So I was just about to low light this with this little bad boy sticking out. Just go a bit lower for me. This little bad boy sticking out. Now if I low light that and that sits over the top, this is when you get these bleeds. So you really need to make sure that you kind of pull these edges out and they are out of the way, even if that means like ruining your foil a little bit and getting them out of the way, because that's what's going to cause all the splodginess and stuff like that. Okay. So I'm going to just tweak her around a little bit again, if that's okay, guys. So we're going to go on the low light here. Let's talk about toners for a second and how we would tone this, if that's all right. So we would wash this off, okay? Let's make sure I don't get any of that hair on there. We'd wash this off. And I would probably put a very, very tiny, just on the band of where the bleach is, a tiny smudge of 7, just to blend it through. You might not need it, you could just go on with an 8, but I would definitely be putting some smudging on there. I'm going to say probably a little tiny bit of 7. Then I'm going to smudge everything into an 8, so the whole thing probably an 8 at the root. Well, not really the root, but this kind of midsection here. And then I'm going to blend it into something else. So at Not Another Salon, everyone has a gradient toner. It's super, super rare that we end up just using one toner. So what we would do, to be really clear on this, and don't worry, I've got a video on it so you're going to know, is I'd put that 7 all over where the highlights are, and I'd let that 7 drop. That's really important. So I'd give it some time to develop, let it drop down, and then when it's dropped, so that could be 10 minutes, it could take up to 20 minutes if it's struggling, but once it's dropped, that's when I would put the next layer of colour on and I'd start smudging it together. But it's super important that you always let the darkest one drop before you put the next one on. Can anyone tell me why you would be really careful of making sure that your first one in the gradients dropped before you put your second one on? And I really genuinely want to know the answers of what you think here. What do you reckon? Because the ends are more porous. I guess you meant porous. Yeah, I got you. Yeah, exactly. So if your ends are more porous, they're going to drop faster, aren't they? So if they're going to drop faster and your 7 still hasn't taken on the root, then you've got a 7 that's not quite there, and then you've got this sucking going on at the ends, which is going to be a real issue. Okay. This section here seems to be a bit skinnier. Don't know why, I seem to have left a little bit less hair in between, so I can get away with just doing one low light in between here. I don't really mind if I pick up a little bit of that was left out from that previous foil. Next tip, okay? Please, please pay attention to this tip. Watch when I apply this, okay? I've got kind of a medium amount of product. It's not absolutely caked. If it's absolutely caked, it's gonna leak. And then watch when I let this go. So, sometimes if the root is large, you can do this. You can remove that hair, and because I haven't put the dark colour all the way up to the root, I can put that like that. Isn't that great that the hair's not in the way? You've all done this before, this is not rocket science. However, when you're working on a technique where you go all the way to the root, which is not what I've done today, if you go like that, this is really important you see this. Can I move that down already? Or 1 second, there we go. I really need to illustrate this super well. Imagine that colour went all the way to the root and then I just put that down on top of it, yeah? Imagine what would happen. It would basically soak through onto there and give me little tick, tick, tick marks, tick, 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 tick. So if it's off root, you can pull the hair away. And if it's colouring all the way up to the root, you must, and this might feel a bit weird, but you must let it go straight across the hair, because my God, if it's going to bleed, you want it to bleed in straight lines. You don't want it to bleed that way. So I'm going to repeat that. If you're taking the low light really high, because maybe her roots are only small, then please make sure that you lay it on top of each other. And if you've got root to play with and the low light is only starting here, then please pull the hair away, or you have the option to pull the hair away. So in this case, I can kind of do either. Brilliant. Right. Last question, I'm on my last section, Ben.
Yo, okay, so how would you recommend dealing with a large regrowth and your clients wanting highlights again?
I mean, it's not really necessarily a particular, so sorry, just to repeat the question, someone said, how would you deal with a client with a large regrowth wanting highlights again? I'm not sure there's a particular, sorry?
Sorry, as it still looks like you've got that big root.
Yeah, I mean, you can do, so, okay, to repeat this question, someone hasn't had highlights for a while, and then you go and put highlights in them and it's had a long regrowth. It's never got the brightness, has it? It's never got the brightness of like a full one. Couple of things. First thing, you just need to do what you normally do and let her know that you're not going to be able to compete with that. She's got to accept it. Or, and this is entirely up to you, you can offer her a service where you can do more back to back, so you can really pack in tighter than you've ever packed before, or even a few little micro slices in between. So you might want to alternate just a few fine slices. That will give you more coverage. And then you might also want to make an additional charge for it. So what you can say is, here are my two options. I can highlight you today. It won't have the same pop because I can only get so much in, or, oh, my internet's unstable. Is everything all right? Yeah. Or the other option is I can mix in more, I can do some slices and whatever, but it might take me an extra 15 minutes. That might be an extra £15, however you want to do it. Right. I'm going to run through step by step of what is done here. So let me just lift her up. I'm going to go to the main camera if that's okay. Yeah. And then I can start prepping for the other side. Right. What is the idea of this technique? Okay, the idea is I haven't got a lot of time. She's got a massive regrowth. She wants a balayage. I'm basically cheating. I'm basically taking it super dark underneath and breaking it up with a few tiny little foils on top just to make sure she gets the lightness. I could change it up next time, or I could do something similar, because actually growing it out this way is a really good way of doing it as well. You can actually just low light the way I low lighted without the highlights in, if you just wanted more darkness, but I just wanted to show you how to also get those chunkier pieces in, which are going to look more like the balayage images that they really love. So a lot of people just saying, do you know what, we just can't have them having unrealistic expectations. We've got to be honest about what we can deliver in the time. Absolutely. Final thought on this, we do two prices in the salon. We do a balayage and a balayage transformation. And a balayage really is whatever we can get in an hour. A balayage transformation is when you've got a shit ton of hair, or you want a picture that really should take me a couple of goes. And this is what we do. Here's a price for balayage. Let's just say £100. It's an hour. And this is how much I can do in an hour. So this picture you've got here, Jane, I can do that picture. But you know that picture you've got over there? I can't do that in one sitting. So we can either do that in 2 sittings, or I can charge you for balayage transformation, which is a balayage plus half again. So if it's £100, it'd be £150. And it would be, instead of an hour, it'd be an hour and a half. And you can say to your client, this is what I have time for in this price, and this is what I have time for in this price. And so you understand, this is a balayage, and a balayage transformation might be every section with the foil, if she's got a lot of hair. So it's really breaking up what balayage is going to save you some stress. Right, guys. Woo! It's 5:20. We probably will be finished at 7. I'm just going to let you know we will be about an hour behind, if that's okay, if you still love me and if you can wait till 7. If there's any questions, I'll kind of have a look at them and I'll see if I can answer this in the next session. So if I'm going to need 15 minutes just to set back up and get organised with this and get all the cameras set up. So right now it is 25 past, so at 22 we'll be back. So see you in 15 minutes.